Meet Sarah and David. Both graduated with engineering degrees, earn the exact same $95,000 salary, and save $15,000 every single year. Sarah puts her money into a high-yield savings account and a popular tech index fund, watching her net worth grow on a screen. David takes his first $45,000 and buys a boring, unglamorous cash-flowing asset, a small commercial property that pays him just $350 a month after expenses. Mainstream finance tells you they are on the exact same path because their net worths look identical on day one. But they are not. Sarah is running on a psychological treadmill, while David has just changed the physics of his time. Over the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you why that tiny $350 monthly check triggers an exponential split that leaves Sarah mathematically incapable of catching up. I know how that sounds. Let me earn it. To keep this completely bulletproof, let's eliminate all the variables. Both people start with a $50,000 investment pool, earn the same paycheck, and have zero debt. The real difference comes down to what we can call escape velocity versus active friction drag. Sarah's wealth relies entirely on her own active labor. She has to keep pushing her money up against gravity. David's cash-flowing asset, however, creates an independent gravitational pull. He has crossed a line where money begins pulling in more money, entirely on its own, without human labor acting as the fuel. Look at what happens in year one. Sarah buys a luxury electric car and puts the maximum amount allowed into a standard retirement fund because her online bank dashboard tells her she is wealthy. At weekend dinner parties, she proudly brags about her 12% paper gains in popular tech stocks. To everyone around her, she looks like the exact definition of financial success. But let's do a cold reality check. Her wealth feels real, but it is completely trapped and highly unstable. Those growing numbers on her screen cannot buy a simple loaf of bread at the grocery store unless she forces herself to sell off her core investments. If the stock market crashes tomorrow, those paper gains vanish instantly. By investing this way, Sarah is choosing emotional comfort and approval from big institutions. She is completely ignoring the real, underlying architecture of wealth. To understand why Sarah is falling behind, we have to look at a hidden trap. This is the difference between what we call the tax shield multiplier and the job income tax trap. The mechanics under the hood are simple but devastating. Every single dollar Sarah earns from her engineering job or from her standard stock investments gets hit by taxes at the highest possible rate. This happens before she can even think about reinvesting that money. She is essentially paying taxes twice on the same wealth cycle. Meanwhile, David's $350 a month does not face standard income tax at all. Thanks to special real estate rules like phantom expenses and property depreciation, his actual cash flow is completely protected. The government allows him to write off the natural wear and tear of the building on paper, even though he is still collecting cash in real life. Because of this hidden mechanism, the tax office acts as Sarah's aggressive, silent partner. It quietly takes 30% of her progress every single year. For David, however, that same tax office acts like a helper, letting him keep his profits to grow his wealth even faster. Let's fast forward the clock to year 3. The stock market takes a sudden dip, and Sarah watches her portfolio drop. She panics but decides to hold on. At the same time, David's property also drops in paper value on the market, but his tenant's lease guarantees that his $350 check arrives exactly on time anyway. Instead of worrying, David takes that tax-free cash flow and stacks it away as extra cash. By year 5, they hit the crossover point. David takes all the extra cash flow he saved up, combines it with his normal savings, and buys a second cash-flowing asset. Now, his monthly passive cash flow jumps to $800 a month. He is building real speed while Sarah is still waiting for her stocks to bounce back. By year 10, the split timeline is undeniable. Sarah still has to work 40 hours every single week just to keep up with her lifestyle and her savings goals. If she stops working, her wealth plan stops completely. David's assets, however, now pay for 40% of his basic living expenses. He has successfully separated his survival from his daily timesheet. Let's look at the hidden math that ordinary financial advisors cover up in the fine print. Sarah's mutual funds have a tiny-looking 1.2% management fee. On top of that, because people naturally buy and sell stocks at the wrong times, she suffers from a 2% timing mistake fee. When you add those together, it makes a 3.2% invisible drain on her money. That might not sound like a big deal at first, but let's turn those percentages into actual dollars. Over a 10-year period, on a $300,000 account balance, that minor fee takes over $96,000 out of Sarah's pocket. That is real money quietly stolen from her net worth and handed directly to Wall Street banks. David's property has normal maintenance costs too, but those bills are completely paid for by the tenant living in the building. That means his real loss to hidden fees is practically zero. Every dollar his property makes stays exactly where it belongs, in his bank account. How do billionaires avoid paying huge taxes while building massive empires? They use a simple three-step trick called buy, borrow, and die. Large institutions and ultra-rich families never sell off their properties or stocks just to get cash for daily life. Instead, they buy reliable cash-flowing assets. They use that predictable monthly cash to pay off cheap business loans, and then they borrow new money against the rising value of their properties to buy even more assets. By purchasing his very first cash-flowing property, David did not just buy a simple stream of extra income. He adopted the exact same game plan used by the biggest investment firms in the world. He is now using the same rules as the wealthy to control his risk and grow his money faster than any regular savings plan ever could. Let's perform a reality check on the numbers. We need to look at exactly what Sarah's risky tech stock portfolio has to do just to beat David's cash flow machine over the next 10 years. To match the total money David makes from his tax-protected cash flow and property growth, Sarah's favorite stocks must hit a steady 16.4% return every single year for 10 years straight. In the entire history of the modern stock market, less than 2% of all companies have ever managed to do that. Expecting her stock portfolio to grow that fast based on popular trends is mathematically absurd. Stop looking at standard investment categories or typical savings accounts. If you want to win this financial game, you need a strict, mathematically proven plan for where your next dollar goes. Here is the exact 4-step system you should follow. First, secure your 100% risk-free return. This means putting just enough money into your company retirement plan to get the full employer match. That is literally free money left on the table. Second, destroy all high-interest toxic debt. Any loan or credit card with an interest rate over 7% is a trap that drains your wealth, and you must pay it off immediately. Third, build your cash flow base. You should focus on buying assets that give you at least an 8% cash return on your money every single year. Fourth, add the final layer of efficiency. Put your leftover savings into low-cost index funds that have tax advantages so you can capture steady, broad market growth without paying high fees. At year 30, the final scoreboard is completely clear. Because David reinvested his tax-free cash flow while Sarah could only reinvest her tax job wages, the final gap between them is massive. It is not just a few $1,000s. The difference is exactly $642,800. $1 single change in the type of asset they bought created a lifetime split of over $500,000. Our brains simply are not wired to calculate things like tax write-offs and cash speed in our heads. That is exactly why I built the Asset Velocity Vault. It is a simple tracking tool that cuts through all the marketing hype and calculates the true mathematical return of any investment instantly. You can get access to it at the link right below this video. Hit the subscribe button if you are ready to stop investing based on your feelings. See you in the next video.